Yes, the midway point of the work week. It is Wednesday. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. The Gun, Rob Ellis. What's up, Gunner?
What's up, man? All right, how many hours until daylight saving time is officially here?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I got you. I didn't even tell you that at the pre-show meeting. I got you now.
I'm good. I'm not that good. When is that hitting? Midnight Friday?
Technically 2 a.m. Sunday morning. Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Oh, geez. 2 a.m.? Oh, my God. All right, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 3, let's see, 72.
Carry the 1.
Oh, my God. 12, 84. 86 hours somewhere
I
around
don't know. I just wanted to make you stretch your brain.
That was tough, man. You hit me with that kind of math right away. Jeez, man. I'm taking my shoes off, using my toes and all my fingers. What's up, everybody? We see a Fando Media, Yacht, Jameson, A-Dog, Griffin, Mr. Rudy Poo, Chris D, Sween Bowl. Am I missing anybody? I don't know. So like I said, if you've already passed, I can't for some reason scroll up and down. So I apologize if I missed you, if I missed anybody. So what's up, everybody? Barrett is en route to the Keys, right? Is that where his expedition is going?
Yeah, Marathon, Florida, or something like that, near the Keys or something crazy like that. Yeah,
great area. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good for him, man. So he's getting a little R&R, little time off. Captain Tony may keep us up to speed with what's going on there. Maybe Derek, we might have somebody on the inside if Barrett's not, getting a lot of fish, that may give us a little information if that's happening, and maybe we'll share that with you if he's not catching a lot of fish, just because that's what we do.
We should have reached out to Captain Tony and say, hey, man, we need you to take some hidden videos of Barrett on the boat.
Yes.
And send them to us so we can play them on the air without his knowledge.
He might be listening. You don't know. He could be. He could have us at. They could be watching us or listening to us on the boat. We see everybody. What's up, Chris D? We see Fitness Rebel. How you doing?
Yeah, don't forget Fitness Rebel, man. I'm still scarred.
I
when
never
she
forget
out
her.
at me, man.
Yeah,
I may never recover.
Yeah, Fitness Rebel does not play, so you make sure you give her just due. That's for sure. All right, so a lot today, Derek. We have Tom McCarthy, who's going to join us at 12:30 with a little Bills, and he's doing NCAA tournament games too. So we'll hit T-Mac up on both. T-Mac was the very first guest of this show.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. How about we're coming up on a year anniversary, by the way, in April 18th. It's our 1-year anniversary.
I didn't mention this to you in the show meeting, but there's one question I want to ask T-Mac. T-Mac is so smooth at everything he does.
Amazing.
But just like I put you on the spot with how many hours until daylight saving time, I have the ultimate question for him pertaining to calling NCAA tournament games.
Okay.
Spring it on him and see what answer he gives me.
Tom's very versatile. He does 3 different sports.
Yes.
Is there anybody – I'm just trying to think. Is there anybody who does all 4? Who does baseball, basketball, football, and hockey, man?
Hockey too. Oh, wow.
That's range, man, if you do all 4.
I was going to say, if you had stopped at 3, I was going to say Jim Nance back in the day. He did the NCAA tournament. He was doing the NFL.
And he does golf.
Oh,
I just thought of it.
Who?
Sean McDonough does all 4 sports.
Sean McDonough. Wow.
He does baseball. He does basketball, a lot of college basketball.
Yep.
He does NHL.
Yep.
And does the NFL.
Yep, you're right.
Actually, he does. And now he's doing college football, but he did the Monday Night Football. I mean, he does all 4 sports. So that's pretty tough, man.
A-Dog said Al Michaels.
Al Michaels did do hockey back in the day. He called the USA Russia game.
Yes, he did.
And he did do some basketball. He's right. A-Dog is right about that. He doesn't. Al's obviously dialed it back. He's an older gentleman now, but he back in his day, he was a guy who could do all 4. Yeah, that's tough. It's not easy, man. You gotta. I'll tell you, hockey has got to be like the hardest, simply because the names are like a lot of those Eastern European names, man.
Dude,
and the speed of it, like that, you got to be able to just move every second.
The hockey names, and now both the college and pro basketball players' names because of all the European names.
Whoa.
Dude, you have to do. It's one thing to do homework. You have to do pronunciation homework.
Yes.
In a lot of cases now, because especially when you call in the NCAA tournament, that's fly by night. The opponents change every day.
Well, think about it. You getting like Belmont. No disrespect to them. You know what I mean? Like some smaller conference team. You're calling them. And then you might have Syracuse the next night or whatever. I mean, that is tough. That is not easy, man. That is for sure. A lot going on there with that. All those names, that's for sure. But so last night, Gunner, the Sixers win 117-94 over the T-Wolves. Embiid, magnificent again. Has had a ridiculous road trip here. They're 4-1 on the road trip, 4-3 overall in a really tough 7-game stretch. Give them credit. Well, and we're going to get heavy into this in a little bit, but I give them a lot of props, man. They did a heck of a job, including the coach. The coach deserves some love too. While we're at it.
Yeah, we've chastised Doc Rivers, and rightfully so, for a lot of things. But you know what? Let's give credit where credit is due. Particularly over this 7-game stretch, I think he has been brilliant in terms of how he strategically has used his pieces. And we can't always say that about Doc, but you know what? We beat him up, so let's give Doc some love, man. Doc has been really good in terms of implementing the chess pieces over this stretch.
Yes, I give him credit. I do, and I give him beat credit. He played on a back-to-back last night and still dominated. Harden didn't play, so all in all, encouraging for sure. This one's interesting. Ed Kratz, who reports for USA Today on the Eagles. You know Ed, Derek.
Yeah.
He has a report out that the Eagles and Brandon Graham are working on a 2-year deal that would pay Brandon in the neighborhood of $6 million per year. And when I saw this, my first reaction was, if this really is what the deal ends up being, that's a huge win for the Eagles. You get a guy who was a double-digit sack guy, plus everything else that he brings to the table in terms of leadership and all that, for $6 million. Man, sign me up tomorrow for that deal.
I'll take that with a 34-year-old Brandon Graham any day of the week. There's some truth to that in terms of they have been talking, but I'm interested in seeing what 2 other components, Detroit and Cleveland, are offering him as well, because both of those teams are looking for improvements on their defense. And Brandon Graham, even at playing 37% of the snaps, is a significant upgrade, both as a player and as a locker room guy, to both of those organizations, to show younger players the way in terms of how you conduct your business both on and off the field. You can't put a premium on that. But there are teams out there, obviously, with a lot more cap space right now than the Eagles. And Brandon Graham, as much as he wants to stay in Philadelphia, and I do think he will look at whatever offer the Eagles are making him very hard. If somebody's offering you $3, $4, $5 million more a year, even if it's for 1 year,
right?
Do you pass that up?
No, I can't. I'm sorry. Hey, look, if he's just looking at quality of life and the family doesn't want to move and his wife wants to be here, I get it. But if you're telling me I'm going to get 6 here or 10 at the other place, that's $4 million, man. I'm sorry, I'm taking it.
Well, I don't think the wife would buckle going back to Detroit in particular, because both her and Brandon are from Detroit. They knew each other in high school. They grew up there, so going back home to family. And she's all, when I've talked to her, she's always talking about all her family back in Detroit. So that would be a slam dunk. Plus she would have more help with the little ones. They have, little kids. So that's a big plus for them as well.
Sure.
They have a beautiful big home here in Jersey. They're not going anywhere after his career is over. If he takes off 1 or 2 years, as much as you hate to see him go, he'll be back.
I agree.
They come back.
And he also knows, Derek, I'm sure he loves the area, but he also knows that, he can continue his career here in the media locally, if not nationally, but certainly locally here. He's beloved. He's already doing shows for, WIP. We've had him on several times. I mean, he knows that too. So it's smart from a business perspective to maintain his home here also.
Absolutely. BG's not going anywhere. He loves Michigan, but he's got roots here now. And he knows this is where his bread and butter, where his bread is buttered now in life after football because of name recognition. It's a struggle with him. A lot of players jump at money, and rightfully so, as we talk about. It's a struggle because he grew up here. He came here as a young, wide-eyed, full of optimism young man, went through some rough waters health-wise and with his fan base, and he's come out smiling on the other side. No matter what he does from this point on, Brandon Graham can do no wrong in this region. But again, considering this is his swan song in his career, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, if you have think about how many players have to take what they can get in the latter stages of their career. Here's a guy who's not going to make the money he's made over his last 2 contracts in Philadelphia, but could make more than he probably thought he could make. Why not take a shot at that?
No, I agree. But like from a team perspective, again, that's a guy you don't want to lose. No, you know. So
especially with this team in flux the way it is right now.
Yeah, and I get the impression that just in talking to people and listening to sports talk radio, looking at our chat section, like people are really getting frustrated. And here's what I would say. It wasn't a big surprise that they didn't use the franchise tags or the transition tags on anybody. They just generally, that's not the way they go about their business. Right. But I get the way this looks. I mean, you had a team that was this close to winning it, that is going to lose significant firepower. And maybe all the real heavy hitters, like you might have a TJ Edwards come back, possibly a Marcus Epps, although Marcus Epps apparently is a pretty hot commodity on the market.
Yep.
But it is very possible that CJ, GJ, Hargrave, Bradbury all go. And that hurts. There's no other way to put it. That stings, man.
People who are frustrated at this point have not been closely following what has happened over the last year or don't follow football closely. Howie loaded up for this one moment in the sun. And we knew during the season, we talked about this early in the season, midway the season, latter part of the season, that this team, if they didn't win it all, could be gutted, because we talked about, number one, the quarterback, and number two, if these guys continued on the course they did, more and more teams are going to be waiting in the weeds trying to pick them off like vultures picking off bones. And sure enough, here we are. So you can't be frustrated. The best thing you can do is sit and wait. People, man, you got to do this. You got to do that. No, you can only do what you can do. Every team's in this situation. I can't emphasize it enough. I'm sure Kansas City fans were saying the same thing. I think if people were being honest in Kansas City, no one thought that team was built to win a Super Bowl this quickly. With that many change in personnel, that many rookies on that roster. Nobody thought that. And lo and behold, as good as everybody thought they would be, think about it, Rob.
Yeah.
If you looked at all the prognosticators who lay out, who they think will win the division, which 2 teams will emerge as the Super Bowl teams, not a lot of people thought Kansas City would be the AFC representative. It was Buffalo. It was Cincinnati. It wasn't Kansas City at the apex of that list. And lo and behold, they navigate through a tough schedule, a tough playoff schedule, and win 17 out of 20 games with a revamped team in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Now, the key was you have what is a guy who's on course to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You have the elite among the elite tight ends in the game. You built a pretty decent offensive line, and you had a trio of running backs back there running the show for you. Well, we've talked about this. Eagles have a solid quarterback, one of the best offensive line, no matter what happens. Even if they lose Kelsey and Sayamalo, they still have one of the top offensive lines in the game, 2 premier wide receivers. You have a young up-and-coming Kenny Gainwell, who might be your lead back this season. And you're going to add a couple more pieces to running back. The Eagles are like Kansas City. There's no one definitive back like a Tennessee. You have running backs by committee. The Eagles are in just as good a shape as Kansas City is. You have one of the top 3 tight ends in the game at your disposal as well.
Yeah.
They're very similar. The difference is when you look at the holdover pieces for the Eagles on defense, I think in a lot of ways they're better off than Kansas City right now. Even if you delete all those prominent players, I think the Eagles you still got some decent edge rushers there. You got a trio of young defensive tackles right there. You still got Darius Slay on the roster. Okay.
Yeah, you still have Sweat. You still have Reddick. Yeah, I think, Derek, what it comes down to is if you believe in the quarterback and you believe in the coach,
yes,
you could figure it out. The other component to this thing is, can you get the undervalued quality player on the market? The Malcolm Jenkins, the Bradbury, like a Kaiser White, whose team maybe can't afford him. He's willing to take a 1-year deal. There's no reason you can't continue this sort of 1-year deal thing that the Eagles did a lot of last year. Now, you got to have the core foundation, but there's no reason you can't do that. And on top of it, you have a really the makings of a prolific offense with a lot of players who are just getting better. Jalen's just getting better.
Yes.
Devontae Smith's just getting better. I think Goddard's getting better. I think Landon Dickerson's getting better.
Yes.
You're going to plug in Jenkins, who's going to who's going to be good. Like
see, Mr. Rudy Poo says we don't have a Hall of Fame quarterback. No, you don't. But you have the MVP runner-up. You have the runner-up or a guy who missed 2 games.
Just finished his 3rd year. No, is he in the Hall of Fame? No. But does he have the makings of what could potentially be a great player?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He doesn't turn the ball over much. He had 1 big gaffe in the Super Bowl. Okay.
Right.
He doesn't turn the ball over much. He takes care of the football. He's a dual threat, one of the strongest, if not the strongest, quarterbacks in the National Football League. You're in a good place right now. People that are out here panicking. Let's come to the realization. We saw that cryptic video that CJ just put out yesterday.
Yeah, let's tell people. So he put it out on Instagram. All love Philly, basically. And it was sort of a video tribute to his time with the Eagles this past year. Yeah,
and he closes it out by saying, "Thank you, Philly." Now, we know a lot of players do that for theatrics, but we also know that 9 times out of 10, when a player puts something like that out, that means they're gone.
Right.
Now, we need to come to the realization. CJ could be gone. Bradbury will be gone. Kazir could be gone. TJ Edwards could be gone. Marcus Epps could be gone. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. When you have this kind of success, you're going to lose quality players, period.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
And there's no 2 ways about it. When you have to pay a quarterback like they're going to have to pay, man, you're seeing what Daniel Jones is getting. I hate to keep harping on this, but if that guy's getting what he got, it starts at 50 for Jalen at least.
Probably exactly.
So when you pay a quarterback in the way in which the Eagles are going to have to pay him, there have to be sacrifices made. As much as Howie is a cap wizard, there are sacrifices that have to be made. It's as simple as that. It just is.
You can't get around it. You can't get.
It doesn't. You don't have to like it. I get it. I don't like it either. I wish you could keep everybody. I wish you could finagle this thing, and you could, but. I guess I'm more than anything else, I'm trying to brace people for what this is going to be. You know, it's last year was a luxury. This is not, it's not the way it's going to look in 2023.
No, and that's, and you know what? That's okay, because teams are always trying to get younger, and you have sometimes take a step back. Now, if they get to the playoffs but don't get back to the Super Bowl, doesn't mean it's a bad year. If they have a completely revamped defense and they find a way to get deep into the playoffs but don't get back to the Super Bowl, that's still progress,
right?
It's still progress.
Yeah, it is.
People need to come to that realization.
I think the way that people view it, and I get it from a fan perspective, the only form of progress is winning it because you got so close last year. Sure. That's the way they look at it. Now, you're just going to the other thing is you may just have to go about it differently. It may not be a year where your defense is I know everybody hates Johnny Gannon, but where they were very good, which they were. You may have an okay defense to mediocre defense where your offense just has to go crazy. It's not the easiest way to do it every single week, but we've seen it. Teams can do it. Yes. And that might be what it is. Hopefully you have a defense that's opportunistic, that Sean Desai comes in here and puts his own signature on this thing, and they're able to make enough plays. But you're not going to have the same sack total. I can promise you that. It's unlikely you'll have a safety that has 6 picks that Gardner Johnson had. That's probably not happening. So just understand it's going to look a little bit different.
When Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, they didn't have a dominant defense. They had a defense that played better. They gelled better later in the season. That offense got them to the Super Bowl. Kansas City didn't have a dominant. That offense got them to the Super Bowl. The Eagles right now have an offense, especially stacked up against the NFC as we see it right now, that could get them back to a Super Bowl. That's all you ask, is to have a chance.
That's it.
You know, you look at the teams like the Rams. Rams may not get back close to the playoffs for the next few years. They let Bobby Wagner go. Now they're talking about letting a few more players go as well because they're in cap hell right now. The Eagles are in a good position right now. We just have to come to the realization we got spoiled for that 1 year. This is something in my tenure in Philadelphia, as good as the defenses are, and I'm talking about the Jim Johnson defense, as good as those defenses were, this is a defense last year unlike anything I've seen in my 25-plus years in Philadelphia in terms of frontline players, depth, so on and so forth. Look at how many made the Pro Bowl. Look at how many were Pro Bowl alternates. That does not happen often with every team.
Yeah.
It didn't pan out. It just didn't happen.
I'll go back to the quarterback. If he is who we think he is, and if he builds on or plays at the same level that he played this year, like I said, you're gonna have a chance. Just look around the NFL. Buffalo absolutely, with Josh Allen has a chance.
Yep.
Cincinnati with Burrow absolutely has a chance. If Lamar gets healthy and he ends up being a Raven, who knows what the heck happens there. But if that's the case, they have a chance.
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence looks like that guy who gives you a chance. Patrick Mahomes, we know, gives him a chance. Herbert, I don't know. There's just so much going on there with the Chargers. I don't know.
I told you, never fails.
Aaron Rodgers gave the Packers a chance every single year. Brady, most years, except for last year, gave his team a chance. My point is, if you have that quarterback, you're generally way ahead of the game than every other team.
If you have a quarterback that can navigate the waters that people will follow, that teammates will follow like the Pied Piper in a profession where you don't have 32 legitimate starting quarterbacks in the National Football League. If you're one of the fortunate few to have that, because it starts there with that quarterback, you know what? You better stand up and applaud your organization for being able to identify and get that type of player.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the quarterbacks that you just mentioned, they were all first-round picks except Jalen. So give the Eagles credit for identifying Jalen. Can't talk about it enough. They went out and got Jalen Hurts when people think, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You just gave Carson Wentz all the money. Why'd you go draft another quarterback in the second round?
Yeah.
Lo and behold, look at where we are now. In his second year as a starter, this dude emerged as the runner-up in your MVP voting and took the team to a Super Bowl, even after missing 2 games with his style of play.
Yeah, agreed.
Stand up and give credit where credit is due.
Some of this is also understanding you got 2 new coordinators in place, so there might be a little bit of growing pains. Both guys, like Brian Johnson comes into, I think, a little bit easier situation in that he's already been here and there's a lot of players in place. It might take Desai a little bit. It might, and he's going to have to readjust. It doesn't matter, Derek, whoever it would be as the coordinator, because you're losing so many people, it's going to take a minute to figure out roles. Remember last year, you pointed this out, I think, last week. Early in the season, Hassan Reddick was dropping into coverage.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't for him, but they figured out that wasn't for him. Yeah, I agree with you. Why were you doing that? But anyway, they figured it out, and that stopped. So you're going to go through some things next year in best usage for Jordan Davis, for example, or somebody else. Just going to take some time.
And as the season progresses, there's going to be more and more added to Desai's defense. So players are going to have to use to where they're supposed to be in certain down situations. What audibles do you call when you look at certain formations across you? That's not going to be meticulous right out of the gate. That's why I said it's going to take 3, 4, 5 games for them to fully understand their roles and for him to understand who do I want on the field in certain situations, especially if you got a whole nucleus of new players coming in.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight.
You think at the turnover you're going to have on that side of the ball. I mean, you're losing some folks, so it's going to take a little bit to get it figured out. So no, for sure. Look, there's a lot to dive into there and kind of digest with what they are, what they're going to potentially be doing. And, we'll do that. We're going to get a little bit further into this thing and what it's going to look like, but there was a lot of movement yesterday, which may lead you, to kind of put some of the pieces of the puzzle together. I mean, Lamar Jackson got the non-exclusive franchise. Daniel Jones got 4 years, $160, $82 million in signing. Just let me ask you, just regarding the quarterbacks in general. Did anything that happened, and a lot of this happened as soon as we got off the air yesterday, which is, thank you, NFL. You'd have done it 2 hours earlier. How dare you? No. In looking at either one of those, either Daniel Jones or Lamar, does any of that impact Jalen, do you think, or are they kind of there's not like that next step to be taken as far as that goes?
I don't think Lamar's deal has anything to do with Jalen, especially considering that he's on that franchise tag now. I think all discussions pertaining to Jalen start with Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray, period. That's where it starts. Now, Daniel Jones, roughly $82 million guaranteed?
Yep.
Hey, if he's getting 82, what am I worth to you? If he's getting 82 million guaranteed, what am I worth to you? Look what I did to Daniel Jones.
Here's the other interesting part too. really interesting. And this goes back to Deshaun Watson. So I think a big part of Lamar Jackson not having a deal in place and why he's now been tagged is because he's looking for that guarantee. He's looking for that Deshaun Watson guarantee kind of money. I think owners are flat out, including Biscotti, who owns the Ravens, are flat out saying no. Like they're telling, I'm sure their players and the players' agents, look, that's not our problem what Cleveland did, but you're not getting this full guarantee. I think that's a piece of this thing, and that's where it's going to be interesting with Jalen here, for sure.
That's why I've said for weeks now, Jalen is not in any hurry to get a deal done. His best option is to sit back and wait and see how thing unfolds. Well, okay, now we see what Derek Carr is going, numbers he got. Now we see the numbers Daniel Jones got. Now we see that Lamar is on that franchise tag, but I think they're going to still work to get that thing done. Jalen is in the best possible position he could be in right now in terms of going back to the table and negotiating, because the main players that we were waiting to see have now finalized deals. And if I'm Jalen and his representatives, okay, how do you people value me compared to what has been thrown out there? And I think, and one thing we can say about Howie is a very sharp negotiator when it comes to numbers. I mean, I can remember several times over the last several years when Howie has told us during a season and even right after a season when they've had their State of the Union, hey, we know it's going to cost us. So it's not like his predecessor who would try to lowball, Joe Banner, who would try to lowball his opposition as much as possible. Howie knows, and he has the most important thing, he has the endorsement of his owner. Howie, do what you need to do to get this done. You never hear any stories about Howie and Jeffrey butting heads in terms of what player is worth what, how much money they want to give.
No, they're in
always
sync.
in unison. Always in unison about that stuff.
Yep.
And that's huge when you start moving forward. Jeffrey Lurie wants to be a consistent winner, and he's basically given Howie the keys to the kingdom. Make it happen. I trust you in terms of being a negotiator, a capologist. I trust you with everything that I have. Go for it and do it. And that's what Howie has done over the last several years.
Yeah, and that's not a little thing. All right, let's get a timeout here, Derek. We'll set our sights on a little baseball and a little basketball with Tom McCarthy when we come back. 1 o'clock, we'll swing it back to the Eagles and just dig into our Howie faith level. We will do that when we return. Fast first segment. We'll keep it rolling. He's D Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. Barrett off today. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I'm going to tell you right now about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances can be a scary proposition. I'm right there in the front of the line. But I can tell you from personal experience that I trust Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, whether it's retirement planning, 401k, insurance review for you. It's another aspect that Jim can help you with. I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers to Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be as well. 610-996-4751. That's how you reach him. 610-996-4751. You can also email him as well. Murray, MURRAY.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com. T-Mac when we get back.